In the early 1980s in Van Meter, Iowa, there were two high school classmates bent on starting a rock and roll revolution. Ace Miller and Jesse Pleasant began hanging out after school in Jesse's basement, writing and recording songs. There were few opportunities to perform in this rugged Iowa farming community, but Ace and Jesse made the best of it, and so began Pleasant Miller.
Well, Jesse was a lot of fun. Jesse, he had this really funky looking guitar with the duct tape on it, and that was before duct tape got really popular in NASCAR, you know. But the girls really dig it.
We used to meet after school, and we had this basement thing where we just came together, and there was sort of a spirit of music there that just sort of burst right forth from our instruments.
You know, we called him Thunder Thumb because he'd just really pound it out.
He had just this life about him, just this musicality, just this music dynamic mystique that kind of attracted me.
I thought we worked really well together.
We started hanging out and playing music.
Yeah, it's a little musty in his basement though.
As the band's popularity grew, Jesse longed for bigger venues and the opportunity for a record deal.
You know, you can only play cowbell for so long in front of people that know what cowbells are. And
So we had this one song with this really strong drum beat that started, and I was like, we really need a cowbell on that, I think.
sure, it was popular, and yeah, we got people that were asking for the cowbell and more cowbell.
So once you get out of town, it's either corn or cows. And I thought, you know, let's share just a little bit with our audience, with our fans. Just a little bit of cowbell.
Really, we got to pay the bills. Cowbell thing. People said, you got to move to LA. LA is where you got to be. You know, hills, swimming pools, movie stars. That's it. That's it. That's where we got to go.
After achieving limited success in the LA music scene, the band ended up signing with Specific Records in early 1984 and launched their debut album, You're Not Gonna Believe This. Album sales came in at nearly 22 million copies by the end of 1985, and the band's success seemed to have a solid foundation to build on. During their subsequent tour to promote the album, they opened for other headlining acts, including Twisted Sister, AC/DC, Robert Palmer, Joan Jett, and even Kiss.
Twisted Sister, they really knew how to party. I didn't get into the clothing thing that they did, though, but
Well, it was pretty intimidating, you know, for a while, and
AC/DC. You know, Brian, I'm really surprised that that guy can talk, even today. We got together a couple of weeks ago, and back when I was down in Australia. And they're from Australia, right?
until we started to realize that, you know, they're just regular people.
The Kiss show was funny, okay? We're in this big stadium, and the stage is like right at the 50-yard line. Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley, they have their RVs parked on the field behind the stage. And I was like, man, that's a great idea. I wish I'd have thought of that. Because I just had our van out in the parking lot.
They might have extra tattoos, and
I got to kind of peek in the door when they let the girls out.
piercings in different parts of their bodies and stuff, but
Kind of dark in there.
really they just put their spandex on and off just like the rest of us.
Smelled like when they used to burn the corn stalks at the end of the harvest in Iowa.
Between performances, Ace and Jesse collaborated on more material, and when the tour ended, went back into the studio to record their follow-up album, Not Even Close, in the fall of 1987. Specific Records released the album in early 1991.
It's really all about the Grammy nominations. I don't care if they win. They probably will get a nice big rush from it and they'll have something to put on the mantle, but that doesn't matter to me. If they get the nomination, I get the sponsorships, put a trickle down, and everybody's happy. So put the record out at the beginning of the year, not the fiscal year, but the calendar year, because the Grammy voters, it's all about the numbers. So if I can accrue as many record sales as I can, then it looks as though they were actually talented or that they actually had a good product. That doesn't matter either. That's completely irrelevant.
And we had a great record producer. He had this excellent strategy. He's like, release the record in January. That way you get all the record sales for the calendar year to help your stats for the Grammy nominations.
They can take their Porsches and their duct-taped drumsticks or whatever Jesse played. It doesn't matter to me.
Because with some of the voters, it's just the numbers. It's just the numbers. And we thought we were going to have the numbers.
So as long as the product is there, then we get good numbers and I get my paycheck and they can feel like rock stars. And so that's fantastic. To get a good product out of these musicians, you have to give them plenty of time to feel good about themselves in the studio, and you have to just make them feel like rock stars. That's really just an idea that they've invented for themselves. You wouldn't know by listening to the record, but they had plenty of time. They felt good about the record. They helped me push it, which means that I had to spend less money on advertising, which is fine. Kept everything in the green. The sales weren't great, but they kept everybody with the lights on.
The Grammy voters, they just...
But despite a successful headlining tour that year and over 25 million in record sales, the band failed to earn a Grammy nomination.
I don't want to talk about it.
For nearly a decade, the band had been on a constant recording and touring schedule. Jesse wanted to take a break from the music scene for a while and relax with his newfound wealth.
Mostly I just hired a guy to carry it with me.
You know, Jesse, he really liked cars. He kind of wanted the fancy stuff, and
That's how I mainly handled it. And really, I didn't think much about it. I just said, hey, whatever I need, make sure my needs are met. And he took care of it.
you know, we all had our own ideas of how we'd spend our money, and I don't judge.
And so I always thought, you know, if I had the opportunity to choose between unlimited personal wealth and world peace, I think my first Lambo would be orange.
Ace and Jesse, they wanted to get cars.
One day decided, hey, what are we going to do? We were sitting there at Taco Bell and just having a couple of burritos. Do you want to go bowling or buy Lamborghinis? And we said Lamborghinis.
I'm not sure why they had to spend that much money on cars, especially just to put duct tape on it. It's terrible for the paint.
I got the black one, and Ace got the orange one, I think.
Actually, it was black.
You know, because I've got the signature duct tape thing. So I took, this big 6-inch fat special order stuff that I got from the factory. Sweet. This is my signature thing. I was the duct tape bass guy.
What started out as a brief respite from the constant grind of the touring schedule turned into a 3-year hiatus that tested Jesse's relationship with Ace.
Well, NASA was on this big PR kick in the 80s. So NASA was trying to build a little PR for the space program with the space shuttle and everything. Named the first one the Enterprise. So anyway, they were doing the first teacher in space and was going to teach from space. And Jesse thought he could be the first musician in space.
I was really into the NASA thing. And I took orbital mechanics.
He took calculus and everything in high school.
Well, okay. I took an online kind of orbital mechanics thing. And
I was like, Jesse, you're just stupid. That's, your guitar's not going to stay in tune in a zero gravity environment. It's just not going to work. He kept on. I think he sent a letter to NASA. He was pretty upset when they turned him down. I tried not to rub his nose in it too bad.
The band was certainly in a position to be able to take as much time as they wanted, thanks to a carefully constructed contract with Specific Records.
So in the fine print of the contract, they had 4 years to record the album, which I think is retarded. And they used every single day of that 4 years, which I don't understand. They had a photographer with them every day in the studio. They had 4 years in the studio to cut this album. And for every day the photographer was in the studio, they would have a little photo op of eating Taco Bell. And Taco Bell used this for press releases and advertisements, and it netted a pretty penny. Without that, the record would have bombed. But the Taco Bell thing really saved them, and thank God they like those god-awful burritos.
T had a lot of really good ideas, both for the first album tour and then as we worked on the second.
I invested in some things on the band's behalf a little bit.
We just thought the guy was golden. One day he was standing in this donut shop looking at just the lines of people backed around the corner to buy these Krispy Kreme donuts. I can still see it today. And so T put 50% of our money into Krispy Kreme, and that was right before the Atkins diet came out. And Krispy Kreme just crashed. And, you know, we were set. And then after that, I blame T for having to, you know, had to go get a job. I had never had a job before. I was rock and roll, man. Having to get a job, it was tough.
Thanks to some bad decisions and some unwise investments, Ace and Jesse had to take on regular jobs. Ace worked as a shipping clerk for the company that handled Kathy Lee Gifford's clothing line, which crumbled in 1997, and later for Pets.com, which folded soon after in 2000.
So my uncle had a shipping company, and the shipping company, you know, they didn't really have a lot of business. And then he signed Kathy Lee Gifford's clothing company in the mid-90s. And we thought, okay, this is cool. This is a big name. We're going to move a lot of material. This will be great. Now, then the allegations came out about the sweatshop conditions and all of that. And, you know, in reality, those kids they got a really great gig compared to it wasn't good compared to here. You know, they weren't making shipping clerk money. So that folded, and then you had to get laid off. And then my uncle got another contract with Pets.com. And it was like, oh, cool. You know, we're going to be in the internet age now. Say what you want about B2B or e-commerce or whatever it is. If you're not going to the mall, you still got to get the goods, right? And that's where the shipping companies come in. We delivered the goods, and then Pets.com. Uncle said, yeah, buy into Pets.com, the IPO, it's going to be great. It's going to go to $1 bazillion. That was before we started using the word bazillion a whole lot. We don't use that word anymore. Bazillion failure is what it's like.
To make matters worse, Jesse's demons dragged him even deeper into the abyss of addiction.
Well, I didn't know we were actually going to bring this up, but yeah, I did. You know, we got out to LA and things didn't go like we thought, and I was thinking of home a little bit and doing a lot of the social media thing, and found this game, and I just thought it was innocent. I thought, hey, I'll take some time, and I wanted to be productive, and I thought, I'm from Iowa, farming thing. So I started getting into that. And
some people just have those personalities that the addiction can kind of just take hold of them.
Next thing you know, I was getting the chills and the thing. I had to keep the cherry trees going. I had to keep the chickens going. I had to keep the soybeans going. And the crop had come in. And I was just like, oh man.
You know, I could see it a little bit once we got to LA, but we were just so busy.
The strawberries, and then I had like grapes, and then I had livestock, and the livestock don't wither. The livestock just stay and stay. But this other stuff,
then once we kind of slowed down and took a break, the addiction really took over.
Okay, I got really nervous about some of the stuff disappearing on me because, you know, if the crops go south, then you're just not going to get any of the money.
I popped over to Jesse's house one day.
Yeah, we know about Jesse's problem.
He was paying kids to do his Farmville account on Facebook. Paying kids for what? Farmville.
So, a couple kids, I was talking to them, and they dug it and stuff, and wanted a little bit extra money anyway. And I thought it was a good idea. I thought maybe I'd hire a couple of kids, and they could keep my crops going because I really had, you know, I had to keep them going.
I don't want to talk about it.
Is there something else we can talk about?
In late 2002, Jesse checked himself into the Wilma Lincoln Clinic to treat his internet-based Farmville addiction.
Well, no, I don't play Farmville. I've moved on from that phase of my life. Those are demons that I no longer have in charge of the things that I do. But I do play Angry Birds.
Several years later, Ace and Jesse reunited in the studio to collaborate on a follow-up album.
T was on the record tour with us too. He knew all of our material, and we just thought he was a great guy. You know, tried to put it together for a couple of tracks for us on the new album. Some of it worked. Some of it worked.
It's all a little fuzzy. I spent a lot of time in the bus.
I don't think T could really wear both hats at the same time. That kind of made it rough.
Ace and I go way back, and I really like the guy, and you know, we're like brothers. You know, every once in a while, he uses certain things to kind of get under my skin, and he does them intentionally.
You know, Jesse went through that period where he was going to be the next musician in space, and he wrote the letter to NASA and everything, and...
Okay, he knows that we did this gig way back with AC/DC, but I think Bon Scott's sister was married to David Bowie's sister or brother, I don't know. He was there backstage, and I thought, you know, we had this song that we wanted to do. I thought it'd be great for David Bowie. Perfect, a little bit of accent, bring a little bit of gravitas into it. So I asked him, I said, hey, you mind coming into the studio with us and just doing a little bit of guest thing there, and we'll make sure that it's really comfortable and fun for you at any time you want. And he went off on me. He was calling me a no talent hack and all this stuff. And
so calling Jesse Major Tom.
And I really looked up to the guy. I mean, you know, Major Tom, Space Oddity, and, you know, Suffragette, and all these awesome songs. And then after that, I just thought, you know, yeah, he's a hack. He's got maybe two talents. He's a songwriter, and he's awesome.
That's just a big misunderstanding.
So whenever I think of that, you know, I think Ace knows that kind of takes me back to that time.
I mean, I didn't mean to hurt Jesse's feelings. I thought he liked David Bowie.
So you look back at the original acts, you know, look back well, what they had to work with and how they produced this iconic, amazing sound, you know, and they were able to do it very little. You know, Ace, you know, he can take his talent to higher levels. I'll grant you that. It takes a significant amount of editing. He does have a quantity of talent that is measurable, and I love that about the guy. But I gotta say, in Beatles, Art Garfunkel, people like that didn't have those types of tools, and so it is what it is. But Ace is great.
But by then, the creative juices weren't flowing, and Ace and Jesse simply compiled cover songs from the headline acts of their early tour days. Still with specific records, they plan on releasing the material later this year.
You know, I think everybody kind of had their own idea of how they wanted to progress in life, and we all went different directions with that.
From farming to Farmville, from headlining at stadiums to headlining the state fair, two guys that play rock and roll have been around the world and continue to rock on.
Jesse's over there biting a hole in his lip, trying to keep from laughing. Krispy Kreme donuts. I can still see it today. I can see a box right over there.
We were sitting there at Taco Bell and just having a couple of burritos because we liked them, you know, but they never quite made it exactly the way that Ace wanted to have them. That was fine, but I loved the place, and he loved it, man. So, you know, we were there.
No, that's fine. I'm bursting forth again. This is, I really do work out a lot.
You know, Jesse, he really liked cars. He kind of wanted the fancy stuff, and you know, we all know about. Oh wait, that was Ace. So I'm getting names mixed up.
I think our best gig was we did this one kid's birthday party. It was a lot of fun. Now, it wasn't like a Rush show. There were girls there too.
I wrote the date in the wrong place. Worst voiceover ever.
Is my hair okay? I watched one of those behind the music with, what was the teen pop star's name? No, my sister's age. No, another 20 years. The kid. He's got the hair like I had 10 years ago, so We know where that's going. So now when you see him, he's always got something. That's why I got the hat on, of course. 'Cause back when we were released Not Even Close, I still had lots of hair. It's true. It's true. I did have lots of hair. Well, that's kind of why my mom named me Ace. I was black as the ace of spades right when I popped out, had a head full of hair.